This is the kind of story we're going to see a lot more of in the future. And not in the far future, soon, in the coming years, in the coming months. Here's the headline. Detransitioner, Chloe Cole announces lawsuit against hospitals for, quote, pushing her into medical mutilation. Says a prominent detransitioner sued a nationwide medical group and its doctors, who she said decided to perform a mutilating mimicry sex change experiment on her. Now, this all happened to her as a child. So, a child who was pushed into being medically mutilated by medical professionals. So, the Center for American Liberty sued Kaiser Hospitals on behalf of detransitioner Chloe Cole, quote, for pushing her into medical mutilation instead of properly treating her. That's according to Cole's lawyer, Harmeet K. Dillon. You've probably seen her on Fox News. Between the ages of 13 and 17, again, 13, okay? That's when they started her with this stuff. Cole underwent a transgender transition, including the off-label use of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and a double mastectomy. So off-label use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, to me that just sounds like experiment, and a double mastectomy. Now, she got the double mastectomy when she was 15. Can you imagine being a doctor performing that on a 15-year-old girl? You'd have to be, to my mind, you'd have to be a psychopath. Quote, what Kaiser did for profit to Chloe in the name of woke ideology instead of sound medical practice should not happen to any child in America, Dillon tweeted. And when did this stop becoming just obvious common sense? Now, she had a lot of confusion as a 13-year-old, which I don't think is very uncommon for young teenagers. I mean, it lists, anxiety, depression, pubertal struggles, body dysmorphia. There's learning disabilities there and autism. She had concerns about being abused and just ongoing confusion about her gender. And they are contending here that she, quote, needed love, care, attention, and regular weekly psychotherapy, not cross-sex hormones and mutilating surgery. That's according to the lawsuit. I mean, doesn't that seem like a more empathetic and a more responsible way of treating a young person than mutilating them? It says after she was exposed to online transgender influencers, Cole developed the erroneous idea that she was a boy. That's according to the lawsuit. When she told her parents that she thought she was a boy, they didn't know what to do and sought medical guidance from her doctors who, quote, immediately affirmed Chloe in her self-diagnosed gender dysphoria. Immediately, not, went through months of psychotherapy, months of counseling. And of course, with something this serious, you would think that years would be the minimum. No, just immediately. That's called ideological capture. They had no questions. Nope, just immediately rush her right in. Let's see. Doctors also told Cole and her parents that her gender dysphoria would not resolve itself and told her parents that she was at higher risk for suicide unless she socially and medically transitioned, asking them, quote, would you rather have a dead daughter or a live son? Again, this is total ideological capture. This isn't science. This isn't medicine. And you don't need to have a PhD in psychology or a medical degree to suspect that perhaps that physical sexual mutilation may not be the best cure for suicidal ideations. A sane person might think that perhaps irreversible treatments on a child who can't possibly consent to these treatments might make everything worse. Quote, this unethical form of coercion reflects a lack of understanding of suicide risk or a deliberate decision to misrepresent suicide risk, the lawsuit stated. Defendants' coercion, concealment, misrepresentations, and manipulation are appalling and represent an egregious breach of the standard of care. This misconduct also constitutes fraud, malice, and oppression. Cole did not get any long-term relief from her gender dysphoria treatment, and instead, her mental health declined as she continued on with her treatment. Quote, and she eventually developed suicidal ideation after her radical double mastectomy. Sane people would know this was coming. Sane people would not do this. Ethical people would not do this. Due to the transgender treatment that Cole's doctors performed, quote, she now has deep physical and emotional wounds, severe regrets, and distrust of the medical system, the lawsuit states. Her doctors were not caring for her Instead, they were experimenting on her, and doing so all at their own great financial benefit. You might think that advocates would see stuff like this and go, oh, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we should rethink this. Maybe it's more complicated than we think. No, that wouldn't happen. Here, this is what you get. Boy, you can just feel the empathy there, right? But this is a story that's only going to get larger and larger and more damaging as the number of people who receive this treatment expands. Here's a story from Canada. Ontario detransitioner who had breasts and womb removed sues doctors, as she is suing doctors for failing to consider alternate treatments before ushering her in on an irreversible journey that she now regrets. Michelle's stated desire to become transgender was never challenged. Now, Europe is reversing its affirmative care model, and affirmative care basically just means if you say it, everybody just has to believe it and go along with it. Nobody's allowed to caution you otherwise or suggest counseling or anything like that. You just have to move forward full bore. And countries like Sweden and France and England are reversing that to moving towards a counseling model and psychotherapy model. Because, well, stuff like this is happening. Here in the UK, Tavistock Gender Clinic to be sued by 1,000 families. 1,000 families. The Tavistock Gender Clinic is facing mass legal action from youngsters who claim they were rushed into taking life-altering puberty blockers. These kinds of lawsuits, featuring hundreds, thousands of people, are going to become common. And I think this period right now is going to be seen as a shameful period in human history, where ideological capture overrode just our basic responsibility to care for and protect children, where people are willing to sterilize and mutilate and destroy the lives of children as a sacrifice to their woke gods. I believe that history is going to be absolutely scandalized by this period. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.